Hi, I'm Ethan Dumper with KidScoop Media.
Hi, my name is Alaina and today we are
at New Road School in Los Angeles, California to interview producer of
Hamilton, Brent, and In the Heights,
Jeffrey Seller, on his new book, Theater Kid. Let's get right into it. Hello.
Hi. It's nice to meet you. So my first question is, do you believe that you would have made it to be as successful without your strong desire to leave Cardboard Village?
Wow, you went right to the heart of the matter. Cardboard Village was the derogatory name that some kids called my neighborhood. Why? Because our houses were teeny, because they were made of tar shingles instead of bricks. They didn't have basements. They maybe had one bathroom and a carport, but no garage. And I was ashamed when people would say, "Do you live in the village?" And I was embarrassed. And I didn't want to be found out. And I did have a burning, deep mission to get out of there. Fly away, drive away, run away. And it turned out that theater became the vehicle. That was my car, theater. I don't think I can separate out where I come from where I went. So the answer to your question is yes, the shame and embarrassment that I felt living in Cardboard Village was fuel for my success.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to start with theater production a little bit. I think one thing that your book brings out is that theater is an art, but also a business. So when you first fell in love with theater, did you imagine how central the business and logistical side would become?
I, from a young age, fell in love with the theater and fell in love with the notion of making a play, being the producer and the director and writing the play, which I wrote plays when I was little and would get all the kids together. And that was the artistic side. But there was also a side of me that was entrepreneurial. And this story's not in the book, but when I was in 5th grade in Cardboard Village, they had this new kind of vacation in February called winter break. No one had had a winter break before. This is the 70s. And clearly, when they announced that we were going to have a week off at the end of February in Detroit, Michigan, or Oak Park, Michigan, we knew that no one was going to be going to Florida because everybody who lived in Cardboard Village was poor. So I, in an entrepreneurial gesture, went to my friends and said, let's do a winter camp. And we'll get the kindergartners and the first graders. And I said, Bruce, you ask your next door. There was one house where they had a garage that was a little bigger. And because I thought, well, we'll use their garage and we'll just get space heaters. And we put out a flyer for all of the kindergartners and the first graders saying, come to the winter camp. It's 25 cents a day. But if you order in advance, it's $1 for the week. And I got 20 kids to sign up, and we made $20 that week. And I think that's a good example of my entrepreneurial capacity and my desire to sell tickets. And from a young age, I was concerned with how many tickets did we sell, will we sell, are we selling, and can we make a profit? And that fueled me as well from being in community theater in 8th grade or directing Grease at the University of Michigan where we sold out our 3 shows or doing Rent on Broadway.
And another question I have had is, in your book, you've talked about how you love the musical Evita and Patti LuPone. Have you gotten the chance to work with Patti LuPone, and has she learned about how she inspired you?
No, I have never worked with Patti LuPone, and I have been an avid fan throughout her career, and I remember when I moved to New York in 1986, in 87 they did a revival of Anything Goes, and she played Reno Sweeney. And I had just done Anything Goes the year before in Ann Arbor, and I was so excited. I went to see her do that at least 2 or 3 times. I never got to see her do Les Mis in London, but I remember how powerful her voice was on that CD, the original CD of Les Mis, and what a remarkable show that was. And of course, I think the pinnacle of my attendance at her shows was when she did Gypsy 15 years ago, playing Mama Rose. And of course, I saw her do that both at City Center Encores and on Broadway. And I've always been a big fan, but I don't know her, and I've never worked with her. And who knows what will happen in the future. But Lord knows, as I wrote in my book, being able to get that poster of Evita with Patty with her arms held high and have that poster up in my dorm room was very important to me.
When you were writing plays, obviously, it was not like an immediate thing. It appeared to be a bit of a negotiation between readings, audience feedback, collaborators' notes, consistently having to adapt the play. What were some of the emotional ups and downs of this consistent reworking, especially when you take steps back before moving forward?
Well, when I was in the 5th grade and I did the little workshop of the play that I wrote in 4th grade, Adventureland, that wasn't about rewriting because I was only 10 years old. So that was really just about getting my friends together and saying, hey, you play this part, and you play this part, and you play that part, and putting all of that together. Of course, as I got older, when I was a senior at Michigan, that was when I directed the first original play. It was called Shtetl Tales, that a local playwright named Rachel Urist had written. And that was the first time that I, as a producer-director, had really read the play and started making recommendations to the playwright. How can you create more dramatic tension? How can you create more conflict? Can we get to the end of the play and experience a greater sense of catharsis? And that happened to me senior year. That was the first time. And then as I moved to New York and started doing plays with my friends at night, I started to apply more of those principles of making a play in which the audience can empathize with the characters or sympathize with the characters, and where hopefully we make a story that has such a strong beginning, middle, and an end that we hold the audience's attention. And if I can add one more layer to that, I had to do that when I wrote this book. Now I was the writer and I had to hold myself accountable. Are you writing, Jeffrey, something so compelling that it's not boring and they'll stay with this story from the beginning to the middle to the end? That's what I must do. And I must do it in every chapter, and I must do it from the beginning to middle and end.
Yeah, and I guess you have been both the playwright and I guess the producer a little bit. But when you are working with somebody else, how do you, I guess, sort of work out to hurt their feelings almost, right? Because it's something they've been working on.
The producer, when I am producer, I have to balance. First of all, I feel like I'm a parent when I'm the producer. And my job is to nurture, to help grow, to know when to praise, to know when to compliment, to know when to say, that's fantastic. And to know, when do I make a suggestion or recommendation? When do I open my mouth? Do I wait until they say, hey, what do you think of this? And is there an appropriate moment to say, can we do better? And that is not linear. It's something I have to feel. And maybe there's a little bit of talent in knowing when and how to communicate in the most productive manner.
My next question is actually related to that phrase as well. I was wondering that for when you're continuing to create new work, do you still keep in mind your phrase, "Can we do better?"
Always. I don't remember. I mean, Lin-Manuel will say that that's what I said the first day of rehearsal of In the Heights when we were moving from off-Broadway to Broadway. And that may be the first time I ever said, "Can we do better?" But I think I'd been saying words to that effect since I was a drama teacher and a summer camp at Camp Tamarack in Michigan when I was 18 years old. I think I was always challenging my campers to do better. I was like, "Come on, kids, we can do better." And I think I was always challenging myself with that. And I am actively working on 2 new musicals right now that I'm not ready to talk about it with specifics, but I will say that I'm asking myself that all the time because I want to succeed. I want to do well, and I don't want to settle for anything less than the best.
Mental health comes up in your book at a few points. You write about your father, a psychiatrist, and your own experience in therapy.
Oh, well, I almost forgot. I was like, when you said it, I was like, really? I didn't think it came up, but God bless you for knowing. Yeah.
Well, with the increasing awareness about mental health, how do you think your own experience with therapy has shaped your work? And do you think that the growing awareness around mental health in general has changed the theater world at all?
Wow. I think that my own experience in psychotherapy and the more advanced version of psychotherapy, which is called psychoanalysis, which is Freudian, which is very intense because in psychoanalysis, the patient has therapy 4 days a week or 5 days a week. And going there and lying on that couch and seeing where my thoughts take me every day and interacting with a psychoanalyst taught me to slow down, taught me to really ask myself, where am I? What am I feeling right now? And what do I want? And most important, I think it taught me to listen. So it was through that process that I became the person in that meeting with 8 people that didn't talk first, but waited and talked last. And you know what I learned? If you want to get everyone to vote to go with your opinion, be the last one to speak. I mean, maybe that's strategic of me, but it really works. So they're always waiting to see what Jeffrey's going to say. I let it all burn out and then talk. Thank you.
I was also wondering that after watching the Tony Awards every year as a child, what was it like to go in person for the first time and win Best Musical for Rent? And then on top of that, are there any musicals that you're excited to see highlighted this Sunday's Tony Awards?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. Oh my gosh. To watch the Tony Awards every single year from 1978, when I was 13 years old, and Ain't Misbehavin' beat On the 20th Century. And then I can basically tell you what beat what every single year thereafter. I would make mistakes, but I'm pretty good at it. And, being able to watch the Tonys at home with my friends was one of the most important moments of every year. So to be a participant, an attendee of the Tony Awards in 1996, when not only was I was there sitting on the aisle in row C because my show was a candidate for Best Musical, which would be the award given as the last award of the night. Like, I was there for the most important award of the night. It was an out-of-body, surreal, mystical, joyous experience, and it was also a bittersweet experience because, of course, Jonathan Larson, as many of us know, died 3 hours after dress rehearsal and never saw the show and couldn't attend on the very night in which he won the Tony Award for Best Score and Best Book.
I actually had a question about that as well. It's pretty short, but do you still have Jonathan Larson's tie that his sister gave you on opening night?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure where it is. I don't say that I don't have it because you know what? I've had things turn up before, but I don't know where that tie is. Kids, you ask questions that are every single bit as thoughtful and perceptive as any question I have received on this book tour, and I really appreciate your thoughtfulness.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for speaking with us. We really enjoyed it. So, what'd you think of the interview?
I thought it was amazing. Do you have a favorite question?
Yeah, I really liked his answer about talking about how to give feedback to people, comparing it to being a parent. I really thought that analogy was a great way to describe feedback in general and a way you can kind of cooperate with people. How about you?
Yeah, my favorite question and like the answer I got was about Evita and Patti LuPone. He really enjoyed it because it was his favorite musical as a kid, but it's sad to know that he never eventually got to work with Patti LuPone.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was a great guest and really a great interviewee. Do you have any other thoughts?
I agree. I think he was an amazing person to interview. He was so kind and he was so caring, and it was great that he had us.
Well, a huge thank you to Jeffrey and the whole team. We had a great time. See you all later.